Hi, everyone. Welcome. We're going to give it a couple minutes here just to let people join the Zoom. But in the meantime, feel free to throw in the chat your name, maybe where you're zooming in from this evening, or morning or afternoon, wherever you are. But thanks so much for joining us. Again, we'll get started in a minute or two here. And again, if you want to put in the chat your name and maybe where you're zooming in from, that would be awesome. I see California, to California. Awesome. Brooklyn, represent. Mass, Virginia, Mass. Okay, so we have both the coasts represented, which is awesome. DC, amazing. Bolivia, super cool. Okay, well, again, please feel free to keep introducing yourselves in the chat, but we're gonna go ahead and get started here. Welcome. My name is Gabrielle Viome. You can call me Gabby. I'm one of the assistant directors of admissions here at Skidmore College, and I am so excited to welcome you to our Creative Thought Work series. The series aims to amplify Skidmore outcomes through monthly themed panels that reach a large audience of prospective students across the country and around the world. So, our session today is titled Creative Thought Works Pioneering Change in Healthcare. I'll ask our wonderful panelists to introduce themselves before we begin our moderated discussion, which will be recorded and available on the admissions website. Afterwards, we'll move to our Q&A session where panelists will be available for questions submitted through the chat feature. Please feel free to start submitting your questions via the chat now and throughout the moderated discussion so we can jump right into the Q&A around 7:30-ish. So again, if you want to start sending in those questions, please do so now. But with that, panelists, I'd love for you all to share your name, class year, majors, minors, and what you've been up to professionally. So we'll go in alphabetic order, starting with Gabriella.
Hi, everyone. My name is Gabriella. You can also call me Gabby. Uh, I graduated from Skidmore in 2018, and I was a psychology major and a dance minor. And currently, I work for the Department of Veterans Affairs, both as a clinical psychologist and as a research investigator.
Super cool. Thanks, Gabby. Jillian.
Hi, I'm Jillian. I graduated from Skidmore in 2024. My major was Health and Human Physiological Sciences. I didn't have a minor, and right now I'm working as a community outreach and education coordinator at a grocery cooperative in Western Mass.
Super cool. Thanks, Jillian. Leah.
Hi there, I'm Leah Tannenbaum. I was the class of 2019. I was a psychology major, and now I'm self-employed as a mental health counselor.
Fabulous. And last but not least, Savannah.
Hi, I'm Savannah Forehand. I graduated in 2020, and I was a social work major, and I was an honors forum minor, and I'm currently a child and adolescent therapist for an intensive OCD and anxiety program in Boston.
Wonderful. Well, thank you all so much for being here and for those introductions. But I don't want to waste any time, so let's get right into our moderated discussion. And I kind of want to start with a bit of a general question, just given the fact that you're all here with us this evening. I can assume that you enjoyed your experience at Skidmore. So, what is it that made your experience at Skidmore so unique? Or, in other words, what makes Skidmore different from other colleges, in your opinion? Does anyone want to start us off?
I can start.
Yeah, go for it.
Um, I went to a really small high school, so I had 27 kids in my graduating class. So when I was looking for college, I knew that I wanted a similar, like small feel. And I was a social work major, and I had the most incredible relationships with my professors, like to the point where I refer to them as their first names. Like they were my friends. I would pop by their office just to like hang out with them. And later I went to Boston University for grad school, obviously a much bigger school, and I just did not have that experience at all. I was like, wait, you can't just pop into your professor's offices here. Like, that's not how it works at other schools. So that was probably like what made my experience at Skidmore so unique was that I was able to, yeah, just like have such close relationships with my professors.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Anyone else want to jump in there?
That's what I was gonna say too. Um, I think that it was really like special that we are able to build such like strong connections with our professors. And I remember like senior year, I had professors from my freshman year still emailing me to like check in and see how I was doing. And I think that was really awesome. And then also, I would say I started school during the pandemic 2020, so it was really hard to, it's just a hard time in general to make friends. But eventually I was able to make, meet a group of girls that I think were so amazing, and we're still like meeting up in Cape Cod every summer and meeting, so I think Skidmore helped like foster those kind of close friendships and relationships with professors and other students.
Absolutely. Gabriella?
Yeah, I would echo what they said. I think professor relationships is so meaningful. And being now 8 years out from graduating, I just published a paper with my undergrad mentor in the
Hi.
psychology department. So I still collaborate with them in my work today. It is like a lifelong, I think, mentorship and, just professional relationship that I really cherish from the time that I was at Skidmore. And I think even in addition to all of that, the friendships and just the people at Skidmore are genuinely very caring and kind, wonderful human beings to learn from and to be around. Um, and Saratoga Springs is a wonderful place. It's my favorite place that I've lived so far, and I miss it dearly. So I think that's another draw of Skidmore and a unique aspect of Skidmore is you get to live in a really wonderful town with great people and study things that the professors really are very, very knowledgeable about, and you learn a lot from them.
I'm so happy you brought up Saratoga. That's definitely something we can expand a bit on a little later. Leah, did you want to add anything?
There's so much freedom at Skidmore because it is a liberal arts. There are all these opportunities to get so focused, but I took a clinical approach where, because I'm a therapist now, that's a clinical thing, and there are opportunities for that. But I was also in the social psych lab, I was also in the positive psych lab, which are more research track fields, and in other schools they may make you pick and then not give you that opportunity to explore both. And not only that, I wasn't a like a theater major or minor, but my job from freshman year to senior year was in the theater department while being a psychology major. And they joked I was always like an unofficial major because of how much time I spent there. Meanwhile, again, that's not something that other schools may allow simply because either it's too demanding or too rigorous or just they're very rigid. And Skidmore instead, encourages that creative thought matters.
Yeah. I totally, totally agree with everything you all just said. I don't think I mentioned this in my introduction, but I'm also an alum. I graduated in 2021. And the small class sizes, and again, what you all said about having those close relationships with your professors is so, so valuable. I think being a name, not a number, is such a huge thing, and just feeling valued in that way. I double majored in English and music, so kind of what Leah was saying. You really can do all the things, which is another thing that I think is really special about Skidmore too. So thank you all so much for that. I'm also curious to know of any resources that any of you took advantage of at Skidmore, that have maybe allowed you to be successful in your life during or after college. So maybe this was like your advisor giving you advice, maybe you used the Career Development Center. Um, any tidbits you want to share there? Yeah, Gabby.
For sure. The writing center was one of the biggest helps for me coming. I had no experience with academic writing whatsoever coming into Skidmore. And so when I was able to utilize the writing center and work with individual professors to learn how to write academically and for research papers, that was a huge, huge resource for me. I was there probably more often than I'm getting feedback on papers and help just understanding the way to write for academic writing. The other thing I really utilized was the funding opportunities that Skidmore had while I was there. So I was able to go to conferences and have parts of my conference paid for to present research for psychology, and actually did a summer internship in Boston where I had a fund that was available, some summer internship fund that was available in order for me to be able to do a research program. And it was research and clinical over there. And I'm fully convinced that that's how I got into graduate school immediately after undergrad, was because of the experiences that I was able to have at Skidmore that you typically would require a 2 year sort of research assistantship after a college in order to be able to get those experiences otherwise. So those opportunities at Skidmore were fantastic and absolutely made me able to transition into the career that I'm in.
Absolutely. Awesome. Thanks, Gabby. Anyone else?
I can speak to something that might be a little niche, but um, so I was a social work major and they have something called advanced standing at Skidmore, which essentially just means that instead of having one internship in your undergraduate degree, you have two internships. And then when you apply for graduate school, I knew that I wanted to go to graduate school rather than going to graduate school and getting your master's in social work for 2 years. I only had to go for 1 year. So that cut down on financially. I didn't have to pay for 2 years of graduate school, but also I was able to get a lot of that kind of like grad school experience while still at Skidmore. So I was able to, you know, still get all the learning, but start my career earlier, save money. So that was like I would say a huge part of kind of like how I got to where I am.
Yeah. No, that's great. Thanks, Savannah. Jillian or Leah?
I would go back to professors and say like I think it was taking advantage of like those close relationships with professors was really helpful. And like I was able to work with one of my nutrition professors to help like analyze the nutrition content of recipes he was making and do like research in a couple different ways. And like you were saying, Gabby, like this really helped me get the experience I needed to get into graduate school right from undergrad. It was super helpful to be able to do that. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Leah?
All of what everybody else said. And also, you can just really learn very practical skills. Like anywhere on campus, there are so many opportunities. This last year, I've been renovating a house, and I would never have known how to do that if the relationships at Skidmore with the professors or with upperclassmen even didn't prepare me for that, or even prepare me for the type of thinking or the confidence or just the openness to be like, okay, this might not go the way I'm expecting it to go, and it's still going to go. So let's see what that looks like.
Yeah, no, I again totally echo what the four of you just said. I personally, for me, really took advantage of our career development center. Really great office. You can start using them as soon as your first year. But they kind of just help you with the basics. So I remember I gave them my resume thinking it looked really good. And they were like, not exactly. So they just totally redid my resume for me, sent it right back. So even just helping with those little things are really, really helpful. They helped with my cover letters. I did mock interviews with them. And again, I think kind of just gaining those skills were really helpful for me in life after Skidmore as well. So cool. Thanks, guys, for that. Um, I want to get into a little bit about just any opportunities that you might have had at Skidmore, whether that be studying abroad, other internships, research opportunities that you've had, that you may think have influenced your path to get you to where you are today.
There was a class with, I believe, Professor Man Roseanne, and it was something like clinical psychology. So I was in it. And I was telling her I wanted to be a therapist, but that I didn't want to become a doctor. I didn't want to do like the 6 or 7 years of doctoral training. And she told me that you could get a master's and that you could get a master's in mental health counseling and that it's a 2 to 3 year program. And then you work under somebody for a few years and that it's a much shorter process and you do the same thing. And that's what I'm doing now. And that's something I truly had no conceptualization of. I'd only known therapists to be like PsyDs or doctors or whatever. And so her very quick and easy conversation with me truly changed the trajectory of my field, my entire workforce. And I should probably, as I'm saying it out loud, send her like a thank you email or a basket or something.
I love that. Yeah, and I mean, if you want to talk, if any of you want to talk about like a class too for this, that would be cool as well. But does anyone else want to jump in for that one?
Yeah, I can jump in. Oh, sorry, Savannah, I saw you took up here. I was just gonna say I studied abroad while I was at Skidmore, and I think this was like one of the best opportunities throughout the whole time. I studied abroad my junior year in Florence, and it was like a partnership with Syracuse, and this was such a, wonderful and life-changing experience. So I would recommend everyone study abroad if you can. But I lived with a host family and they spoke only Italian and it was really like immersing and awesome. And I think it influenced my life a lot today in my career because it made me really feel comfortable with doing stuff on my own. When I was in Florence, I was like, I don't want to not go to this cool museum or eat at this place just because there's no one, that I can go with. So
Hmm.
I learned how to do that. And I think it's super helpful, like in my job today, because I'm have to do a lot of community outreach and it's awkward at first to just like go out and introduce yourself, but I feel like really comfortable with it because um I'd had that experience. And then one other thing I want to talk about the research opportunity I had too, because that was so amazing. I was able to do research like my full senior year with one of my professors and stayed on at the summer after I graduated too. And I think that was so like amazing. I got all these clinical research skills. I was able to have like I think I have 3 or 4 papers published just from that one like year of research with that team and I think that was fantastic too and when I was like applying to jobs a couple months ago I was able to highlight all those skills which was really great. Okay. That's all.
No, yeah, I love all of that. Did any of you also study abroad? Savannah, Gabby, Leah? Okay, cool. Yeah, so we can definitely talk about that in the Q&A as well. I'd love to hear all of your experiences. Savannah, did you want to add something? Yeah.
I was also going to talk about study
Yeah.
abroad.
Yeah.
Just like, yeah, to echo what Jillian said, it was really like, aside from going to Skidmore, it was one of the best choices I've made in my life. Like, I look back on that time so fondly. I also studied abroad in Italy. And I recently went back for the first time in like February, and yeah, it just like feels like home, but definitely study abroad. But the other thing I was going to talk about was the peer health education like program. So at Skidmore, you can take a class and become a peer health educator, where essentially you learn to like educate your peers, the other students, on like different health related topics. At Skidmore, they have like a wellness center, which is like a student-run center that I worked at for like 3 out of the 4 years. And you can go sit in the wellness center with whoever's working, another student, and just like get advice on like, I'm feeling really stressed. What are things that I could do to like lighten my workload, or how can I like organize my schedule better, or like just like have someone talk to. And that's kind of just like what informed my entire career after working there. I was like, wait, I want to do this forever. And that's what kind of led me to become a therapist. But that was probably one of my favorite parts at Skidmore was being a peer health educator and like working. I also led a committee through the peer health education department, so that was a huge part of my time at Skidmore.
Yeah, no, I love that you mentioned that. We have a new space on campus called the McCaffrey Wagman Health and Wellness Center, and we moved our peer health education program into that new space, and it is so cool. So yeah, that's a great program to mention. Thanks, Savannah. And Gabby, did you want to add anything?
Just a quick add that, so I didn't do a formal study abroad program, but in the different departments, there are like summer month-long programs that you can do. So I was really involved in research when I was at Skidmore, and so I didn't want to leave during the semester when a lot of the research was going on. But in the summer, I was able to do two different summer programs, one in the psychology department, one in the dance department. But the one in the psychology department, I think, really reaffirmed my interest in what I was doing. And it was awesome because we were learning about PTSD on the D-Day beaches. I was in France and we were in Paris for most of it. And it was just really cool to immerse yourself in the culture and in the space where things were happening while you're also learning about disorders that, are now being treated, that I treat on the daily in terms of PTSD. So yeah, it was a very awesome experience and a really cool way to be able to still stay at Skidmore during the school year, but then during the summertime, take opportunities to go and travel abroad.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you all. Okay, so I see we're getting so many fabulous questions in the chat. So I want to ask you all just one more question from me, and then we'll get right into the Q&A. And again, feel free to start throwing any other questions that you have in the chat now, everyone. But looking back on your own experience at Skidmore, what would be your biggest piece of advice that you'd give to these students that are going through the college admissions process currently? Um, I know it's a loaded question, so if you need to sit on it for a second, go for it. But I'm sure all of our students would love to hear what you have to say.
I
Yeah,
think
Gab.
oh, sorry. I was just gonna say, I think my biggest piece of advice is Skidmore has unlimited opportunities and take advantage of as many opportunities as you possibly can. Anything that you could want or need to further your personal interests and your professional interests are available either at Skidmore or through people who work at Skidmore and the people that they know. And if you connect yourself to the people and to the community, you will have just endless opportunities. So I think absorbing it and taking it all in to the best of your ability is the best piece of advice that I have.
Love that. Anyone else?
During the admissions process, I didn't have the chance to do this because like it was the pandemic, like I said, but I would definitely recommend trying to visit campus and talk to current students and even professors if it's possible. I was able to do this for graduate school and it was so helpful to make like, help me make that decision. So if you can, you should try and do that.
Yeah, great piece of advice. We do have a lot of virtual offerings as well, clearly. So definitely check those out too. Thanks, Julian. Savannah or Leah? Yeah.
I would just say, like, maybe this is a little cheesy, but like, just like try not to worry about the whole college admissions process. I know as an anxious person myself, I put so much pressure on myself. But you are all very intelligent and bright people, and you have incredible things to offer. And wherever you get in and wherever you go is where you're supposed to go. So just try to give yourself, I think, some grace through the whole process. It can feel like a lot and, very stressful. And it really, once you get into school, you're like, wow, I worried for months about all this and it all worked out and I'm fine. So just try to take care of yourself.
So important. Thanks, Savannah. Leah?
I think, there's a million options. You will end up happy wherever you are
Yeah.
because you'll choose to do that.
Hmm.
That good?
Yeah, perfect. I think kind of to put what the both of you just said into like a concise thing, what comes to you is meant for you. And I think that's super, super important to just keep in mind, and just know that people are in your corner. And if you have questions, don't be afraid to ask them. I think that's really important. There's no silly questions about the college process. Again, like we all just said, it can be a lot and it can be stressful. But just don't be afraid to ask questions. Again, no silly questions. But that was awesome. Thank you guys for all of that. I want to go right into our Q&A portion of the event. Again, we're getting so many awesome questions. Thank you all so much. So for all of the questions that we're getting in the chat, I'll read those aloud and relay those to panelists. So given that this event is a chance for you all to engage with our alums regarding their experiences, I do ask that you try to refrain from asking questions about the admissions process. Instead, ask questions about their time here at Skidmore and their experiences. But at this time, I'm going to start going through the chat and we'll have our panelists answer your questions. But again, please feel free to keep sending those in throughout the next half hour or so as well. Okay, let's see here. First question I'm seeing. Was there a specific project or collaborative research opportunity at Skidmore that completely changed your academic trajectory? I know we talked a little bit about this, but if any of you have any additional um, opportunities that you want to add, feel free. And if not, we can keep going. Yeah, Gabby.
Yeah, I would say for sure. I worked really closely with Dr. Schofield when I was at Skidmore, and I remember when I first came in as a freshman, I thought I was interested in um, getting a deeper dive in schizophrenia and stigma related to mental health. That's how I decided I wanted to go into mental health, is I care a lot about stigma. And in starting to have conversations with her, learned a lot about anxiety disorders and the gap from people having symptoms to actually getting to treatment, and specifically for obsessive compulsive disorder, which is now sort of my area of expertise, and that there's stigma associated with anxiety disorders as well. And that ended up being my thesis project as a senior in the psychology program, and it completely changed my trajectory. I mean, now my whole area of focus is anxiety disorders and OCD, and it was absolutely based in not only just that conversation with her, but her research line and her willingness to kind of take me under her wing and help me learn all about the scientific methods and things that I needed to do in order to be a researcher and a clinician in that area. So, 100% that did happen for me.
That's awesome. Thanks for sharing that. Okay. Let's keep it going. So, study abroad. I kind of want to circle back to this. Question that I'm seeing is, did your time off campus while you were abroad open your eyes to an industry, global issue, or career path you hadn't previously considered? It's an interesting question. But if any of you also just want to talk about your abroad experience, if you haven't done so already, you can do that as well.
Okay, I already talked about mine, but I can talk about it a little more. Um, so I knew I was interested in nutrition when I went into study abroad, and I had the opportunity to take some like really cool classes that I didn't even know were possible. Um, while I was there, and that was like Mediterranean food and culture, and a wine appreciation class, like food culture. So this kind of opened up another, like I knew about nutrition as a science, of course, but it was also kind of opened up nutrition as like an art and a thing that people really connect over. So it was kind of cool to connect like the science that I had learned at Skidmore with like culture, in studying
Mm,
abroad. So yeah.
awesome. Anyone else want to add to that or?
I can talk a little bit. I also talked about my time, but I could talk about it all day long. I took a class in Italy that like was comparing different systems in Italy and in the US. So it was comparing like the education system, the mental health systems, the prison systems, um, and like I think immigration. But anyways, we went and actually toured an Italian prison. We toured an Italian like mental health facility, an Italian school. And it was so eye-opening to me to just see like the difference in how we do things in the US, how they do things in Italy. And yeah, I just feel like I learned so much from that, not just about Italy, but also about the US and how like of course we don't do things maybe the best way all the time. Um, so yeah, that was like a highlight for me.
That's awesome. And I do see one other question I want to get in now while we're on the topic of studying abroad. How did you choose the right program, to complement your major? I know sometimes too, some programs don't exactly align with your major, so maybe that's the case. But how did you kind of realize that that's the program you wanted to do?
I
I
think
knew
it's
I wanted. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Leah. I've already talked.
You're very cute. Thank you. I think it's like comparing a bunch of different variables, or maybe that's just how I make decisions. But I did a study abroad in Spain. Mine was only for 5 weeks. That really appealed to me. So I didn't want to do a whole semester. And going for the summer for 5 weeks, I always wanted to go to Spain. It was a psychology specific program. I didn't I knew myself and I knew it was going to stress me out to try and find a program that like kind of fit. So I wanted mine to be very on the nose. But there are very many ways to pick. You're also always welcome to speak to any number of advisors, any of the professors you've gotten close to, any friends that are in the major. But I picked mine just through like where it was, how much it was, if it was related to my major, and how long it was.
Yeah, that's great. I do see one other question I quickly want to just answer. Speaking of languages and immersion, do you have places on campus you can go to speak in a specific target language? I think that's a really interesting question. I mean, we have our World Languages and Literatures department, so we offer classes in all different types of languages. So that would kind of be a great place to start. We do have a world language requirement, so you would have to do at least one semester of a language of your choice. But in some study abroad experiences, you can fully immerse yourself in the language of in the country of origin. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different ways. We have great clubs as well, where you can practice speaking a different language. But yeah, those are kind of the main ones that I think come to mind for me. Um, okay, let's kind of switch gears a little bit. Um, what is life like on campus? Are there consistent activities where you can meet new people? What did y'all do for fun?
So I was there pre-COVID days, so I'll talk about the olden days before COVID. But when I was in Skidmore, there was always something going on between club events and comedy events and dance program things that I was involved in. I mean, I remember on, and I'm gonna forget the name of the day when all the clubs, like Club Day, all the clubs come out and you can like go and walk around the quad and see all of the different clubs. I mean, there are so many programs and so many things to get involved with. And just any different niche area that you might have, there's either a club that exists or a club that you can start to be able to do it and have other people who are enjoying it. So I always found that the campus life was very, very active. And if you wanted to do something every night of the week, there was something available for you to definitely get involved in.
For sure. At this point, we have about 100 different clubs and organizations. And as Gabby was saying, there's always new ones being created too, and it's really fun to kind of see what students are coming up with. But Jillian, Savannah, Leah, do you want to talk about anything else you were involved in? Or if you want to throw in like a tradition, that could be fun too.
I lived on campus all 4 years. which I don't know, I would highly recommend doing. I say like to this day that my Skidmore apartment, my senior year, was probably the nicest place I'll ever live. The apartments are so nice. But there in the like where the apartments are, there's like this volleyball court with like all these like picnic tables, and I lived like right on that. And so whenever I was bored, I would just like go sit out there, and like there'd be people in hammocks or like kicking a soccer ball or playing volleyball. Like there were just people always congregated there. So I feel like that's where I spent a lot of my time, especially in like the warmer months, like just hanging out outside with a bunch of people, and like just hanging out around the apartments. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the campus itself, you can't really go wrong. There's so much green space on campus. I love to just sit out on the green with my friends during a nice day in the fall or in the spring. So, yeah, that's great. Anyone else?
Yeah, I think me and my friends and I were like kind of homebodies and we would stay in our apartment and hang out a lot. But we did always go sit on the green on sunny days and that was amazing. And then also I guess a tradition like is going we would go back to the dining hall even when we like didn't have um meal plans anymore just because of like chicken finger Friday or something fun like that. Like when you knew that the meals were going to be really good. So the dining hall is awesome. And yeah.
I still go to Chicken Finger Friday as well. Leah, did you want to add anything?
You can always walk to town. Anywhere on campus is nice. There's also Northwoods, which is just woods that you can walk around in. I'm a big escape to the woods, process your thoughts type of person.
Yeah.
Um, the green is nice. The Tang is very underrated, I feel. My dad recently showed me a New York Times article where they were featured, and I recognized it immediately. Just because it's the museum on campus and it's always free, I think, and they change the exhibits rather frequently.
Hmm.
It's just a nice place to wander into, I think. And so fun that we just have a museum on campus.
So true. Yeah, and again, I want to do a whole little bit on Saratoga, and I'm sure we'll get there. So we'll hold off. But yeah, no, those are all great things. I think my favorite tradition, for Savannah and Gabby and Leah, back in the day was Beetlemore. Now it's Skidmania. So, every November we have a big concert put on by the music department, and all of the songs that are performed by students and faculty are songs from exactly 50 years prior. So this past fall it was Skidmania 75. They did do Bohemian Rhapsody and it was awesome. So that's probably my favorite, which is my parents love to go to that as well. Um, okay, amazing. Let's see. Okay. Um, okay, so a question about funding for academic opportunities. How easy is it to bring an idea to life? Something that I can highlight, and if any of you also want to jump in, feel free. We do have our summer experience fund, which is such a great opportunity for students that want to do an internship or any type of academic experience over the summer that is either unpaid or paid very little. So students would apply for the Summer Experience Fund and they can receive up to $4,500 as a stipend. And that can go toward housing, food, any other essentials that you might need in order to be able to complete that experience. So that I would say is definitely a really big one for our students, especially during the summer. Um, did any of you participate in that? Yeah,
Yeah,
Gabby.
that's how I did my internship in Boston, actually, was through that summer
Perfect.
fund. It was great and definitely needed because Boston's expensive.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's a great example. So that's definitely the main one that I would say, but that's a really, really great question. Okay. What is one piece of advice you would give to an incoming first year student who knows they want to study abroad but isn't sure how to start preparing for it or how to choose where to study? It's a great question. I mean, I can start just by saying you can go to our study abroad office as soon as your first year, if you really kind of want to map it out, especially if you know you might have a bit of an involved major, if you're planning on doing a double major of sorts. Um, but yeah, I mean, do any of you want to talk about that? Or we can also move on. Good. Okay. Fabulous. Let's see. Okay. So this is where we're going to talk about the Scribner seminar. Is there any sort of cohort experience that serves as a connection throughout freshman year? So definitely Scribner seminar. And if any of you did pre-orientation, this would maybe be a good place to talk about that as well. Savannah, I see you shaking or nodding your head.
Yeah. Um, so like I did pre-orientation. A lot of the pre-orientation programs are like adventure stuff off campus. Maybe some of the other panelists did those, but I chose the like safer option and stayed on campus and did like it was like a volunteer pre-orientation where like we went through Northwoods and we picked up like cleared out the trails and I don't know, I loved it, but like the person that I met day one at pre-orientation, like the first person I met at Skidmore is still my best friend, just spoke at my wedding, like, so I would totally recommend pre-orientation. It gives you a chance to meet people before school starts. And maybe you'll meet lifelong friends through that. But also, yeah, Scribner seminar. I'm forgetting the exact, I think it was something related to the human brain. I'm forgetting the exact name of the one that I did, but
They're very niche.
yeah, I think it was like stress in the human brain or something. And I ended up doing research with that professor later on at Skidmore. So both like great opportunities to get to know people when you're coming into a place in a school that you don't know anybody.
Absolutely. Anyone else want to talk about their first year experience?
I think it was really great. And I mentioned earlier that some professors from freshman year were reaching out senior year, and that was my Scribner seminar like professor. So I think that we all really bonded as like a class, a group. We were actually in a tent because outside for that class because of COVID. So
Oh my gosh.
we were very bonded, and one of the students is there is still one of my best friends today. So I think it was fantastic to make us all really close knit.
Love that. Yeah, Gabby.
The other thing I'll just say is that it's because Skidmore class sizes are so small, it's really easy to get to know everybody in your class. And so
Mhm.
even when you're starting out as a first year, it's not like you're going into classes that are 300 people and you're not going to be able to talk to anybody. The class sizes are so intimate that you really are able to make friendships quite easily. So not only through the first year seminar, but through all of your classes, your first year, you'll be able to meet people, which I think is great.
Yeah, that's a great point. Quick side note on that. Average class size is 16, and we do try to cap the Scribner seminars at that 16 mark as well. So, like Gabby said, you really get to know the people in your seminar really well. And your professor for that class will also be your academic advisor up until you declare your major, which you don't have to do until the end of your sophomore year. So, really, everyone in that class you get to know very well. You're also given a peer mentor, which is an upperclassman student. I kind of like to say your peer mentor is your assigned friend when you get to college. But they're really kind of just there to not only help you with the academic transition from high school to college, but to help with the social transition as well. So those are my 2 cents. Leah, did you want to add anything about the seminar, Prio? Okay. Fabulous. Let's keep it going. Um, okay. This is a very practical question. Are the winters harsh in Saratoga? I'm from here originally, so I think it really kind of depends on the year. Would you all agree?
I'm gonna say that I think that they're cold. Um, I yeah, they're cold, but I will say that like I don't know if it was just being in college. I have a much lower cold tolerance now than I did when I was back then. It didn't feel as cold when I was in my teens and 20s as it does now. And so I think that while it is chilly outside, I felt like we all still made the best of it while it was cold outside. Everyone was still outdoors. I was a tour guide, so I was walking through the snow. It was just, you just got used to it and it was beautiful. I mean, Skidmore during the wintertime is absolutely stunning when it's snowing on the ground and yeah, it's just peaceful and beautiful. So even though it is definitely cold, it is still a wonderful place to be in the winter.
Yeah, definitely bring a coat, bring boots. I would say we get like at least one like epic snowstorm a year. And I would say like January, February is when we usually get the brunt of the snow and the cold. So just come prepared. Make sure you have all the things. But it's not always like that, I promise. The fall is beautiful. And it usually starts to warm up. Again, it kind of depends on the year. I would say maybe like March, April. Okay. Do most or many people do an internship at Skidmore? I can quickly give a stat. So I would say about 85% of our students do at least one internship in the 4 years. About 75 to 80% of students will do two or more internships. So yes, it definitely depends on the student. And a lot of students end up doing multiple internships in different years. You can start doing internships as soon as your first year at Skidmore as well. Okay, let's see. When you were first entering the job market, how responsive and helpful was the Skidmore Alumni Network, which you're all a part of? Yeah, how was that experience for you all? Did you have any alumni connections that you made? Um, if not, that's also totally okay. Were any of you on Handshake? Okay.
I will say that at least my experience has been every time I tell someone that I went to Skidmore, someone's like, "Oh, my brother went to Skidmore, my cousin went to Skidmore, my uncle went to Skidmore." Like, so I definitely use that in job interviews, in grad school. Like every time you say I went to Skidmore, someone will know someone that went there and has lovely things to say about it. And I think then that informs them like what kind of student you are because Skidmore is like such an incredible school that it's like, oh, you went to Skidmore. That's impressive. So I didn't have any like specific connections to get a job, but I just think having Skidmore on your resume is impressive and will bring about connections.
Absolutely. Totally agree. I will share. I like to mention we have kind of an online platform. It's kind of like LinkedIn, but it's for current students and alumni. It's called Handshake, and that's kind of a nice way to be able to connect with our alums in a virtual setting. But in person, we have a lot of events held on campus throughout the year via the Career Development Center. Biggest one definitely in the fall, which is our career jam. So we'll invite alums just to come to campus and to network with current students for the day. Our alums love talking clearly to current students and to prospective students. So it's a really, really great network to be a part of. Okay. Was it difficult to balance pursuing research and other activities at Skidmore? I would even also throw in academics. Like what was kind of like the like work life balance, I guess you would say. And if it was stressful at times, how did you maybe handle that?
I think that it's all about like prioritizing the things that are most important to you and your experience, but also your trajectory. And so finding the balance, I think for me was between I knew I wanted to go to graduate school and I really didn't want to take time in between college and going to graduate school. So I spent a lot of time doing academics and research and probably less time doing some of the fun things that Skidmore has to offer, but it was in service of being able to move right into my career and being able to kind of pursue the things I want to. But that being said, I was not just a psychology major, I was also in the dance department. And I got to balance some of the more rigorous academic things that I was doing with a passion of mine, which was dancing, and being able to integrate all of those things and still be a part of the Skidmore community through various activities, I think made it so that it didn't feel like it was all work, no fun. Like even the parts that were a lot of work, there was still always something fun going on every single day. So um, it's challenging at times, I think, to balance when you have a lot of things. But I also think that when you care about all of the things that you're balancing, it makes it a lot easier and a lot more enjoyable.
Totally. Anyone else want to add to that? We good?
Yeah, anytime I was like overworked or overwhelmed, it was fully my own doing. Like it was never like I signed up for too many classes, I agreed to do too many things. It was never a demand or something about the school.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I remember, I think it was spring semester of my sophomore year, I just totally overdid it. And I remember I went to my advisor and I was like, "Can you please take something off my plate? I like am dying." And my advisor was super receptive to it and kind of helped me navigate that. So you have people in your corner. But yeah, I think that's great advice. Okay. I'm not sure if any of you can answer this specifically. Maybe you can. We can try. What kinds of internship opportunities are open for prospective medical students? Anyone? Yeah. Yeah, I mean, something that I'll kind of share. First, I'll say we do have like our pre-med track. So that's called our Health Professions Advising Committee. So those are students that would like to pursue medical school after their undergrad at Skidmore. You get a separate faculty advisor to help you through the pre-med track. They help you with your MCATs and all of that fun stuff. But in terms of internship opportunities, we have a lot of great um, opportunities right in the Saratoga Springs area. Saratoga Hospital is very close to campus, and we do have students that intern right at the hospital. It's like a 5-minute drive from campus. And again, as we all talked about, great research opportunities too. So there's definitely things to do both on and off campus to explore that. Okay, let me kind of just go through here and see if there's any questions that we didn't really touch on yet, because we are almost at time. Um, do. Hmm. Uh, I love this question. How would you describe the vibe of the student body at Skidmore? Is there like a typical Skidmore student, would you say? Or no?
I don't feel like there's a typical Skidmore student, honestly. I feel like it really depends like who you are and who like the kind of people that you hang out with. But I will say that like there's someone for everyone at Skidmore, like you think of Skidmore, we're like creative thought matters. It's very, like artsy school and there is that, but there's also like sports teams and athletics if you wanted to pursue that. There's, a lot of different other like just groups of people. Like we've heard about dance and like theater and um so I think there's someone for everyone. Like I would say maybe the vibe is just like people who are maybe more creative and like want to take all the opportunities that they can take. But yeah, I wouldn't say there's like one kind of particular person, which honestly is nice, I think.
Yeah. Anyone else want to jump in on that one?
I'd say maybe like the vibe is people are like a little quirky, if anything. No. And also it's pretty like active in terms of like politics and all this kind of stuff. You totally don't have to get involved, but if you want to, you can. And there's a lot of people that would be wanting to get involved with you. So, yeah.
Abby or Leah?
I think the students seem to just care a lot. Like whatever they pick, they
Yeah.
seem to really care. And I think Jillian really hit the nail on the head where like some students are really political, or Savannah, like some are really passionate about their craft and their creativity. Some are really passionate about politics and like activism. Or even Savannah, like you said earlier, like you're showing up early to college. Some people are wanting to like party and you're like, yeah, I'll walk through the woods and like pick up pollution like this. It's just it's a student body that really has heart, I would say.
I love that.
I would really echo that. That's what I was, when I think about my time at Skidmore, I feel like warm and energized. And I feel like that's the vibe I get from this people at Skidmore, not just the students, but the faculty too. Like there's this care and this energy that people are bringing to the campus, and just a warmth, a really just kind energy that I think flows from person to person. So I would really echo that, Leah.
Amazing. And honestly, I think that is a great thing to wrap up on. If we didn't get to your question, please don't fret. Eileen put a little message in the chat. Please send your questions to admissions@skidmore.edu, and we'd be happy to connect you with either a member of our admissions staff, a faculty member, or one of our current Skidmore students, and we will absolutely answer your questions. But thank you all so much for your great questions. We really appreciate, hearing all of those questions. And I think, as you can see, there are just a lot of ways that Skidmore has impacted the life journeys and experiences of our alums. And I think the stories that you've heard here tonight are a great testament to that. And again, if you have any other questions, please join another upcoming Creative Thought Works event, or again, contact admissions at skidmore.edu if you'd like to reach out. I want to extend a very heartfelt thank you to our fabulous panelists for their time. You all did such a great job and are so impressive. And to all of our attendees for spending time with us today. I hope you have a great evening, morning, afternoon, wherever you're zooming in from. And we'll talk with you soon. Thanks so much, everyone. Take care. Bye.